Welcome to the Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner, where each month we bring you a new fly pattern to give a try to on our Central Oregon lakes and rivers. In addition to showing you how to tie each pattern, I'll feature fishing technique tips and tricks, and I'll cover some of the entomology behind each pattern to help gain a better understanding of the bugs that we're trying to imitate. I have field tested each of the patterns that I feature each month to make sure that they catch fish. I'll cover tying instructions for the fly as well as materials to help you be able to recreate these patterns on your own vise. For this month's pattern, I'm going to tie a Madam X. This is a pattern I learned a number of years ago and first fished with some success up on the Gallatin River in Montana. I learned it's an excellent imitation for golden stones, and later on in the summer it's even better as a hopper pattern. So follow along as we tie the Madam X trout fly. Let's briefly cover the materials on this pattern. I'll cover them in a bit more detail as we tie each step during the fly. So let's get started tying the Madam X. I'll begin by introducing my first two materials. For a hook, I'm going to use a Firehole 718, and I'm using this in a size 10. It's a competition barbless hook with a slight bend. It's an excellent hook for hoppers and other large dry flies. For thread, I'm using yellow Danville's in size 210 denier. This is a pretty heavy thread, and necessarily so, because I'm going to put some pretty aggressive compression as I tie down the tail and wings on this pattern. I'm going to attach my thread right up at the head position on the hook, leaving ample space for a bullet head on this fly. And I'll trim off the excess. For the tail and for the wing, I'm going to use deer hair, and this is off a mature mule deer. I'm going to go ahead and clip some deer hair and clean that very, very thoroughly. I want to really get rid of all the guard hairs in the deer hair, all the little fluff, so that when I tie through this, it'll fully compress and attach to the hook cleanly. And so I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and measure the tail, and then I'll clip the butts, and I'll tie that on right where I started my thread. So I've returned my thread up to the front of the fly, and I've wound it all the way to the eye. Now I'm going to clip a second clump of deer hair, and I'll clip this about double the size of the tail, plus or minus a touch. And I'll go ahead and stack it in my stacker and prepare it like I just did for the tail, except we're going to orient this facing forward, or the tips facing forward, and we'll tie that in right in that little area I reserved for the head. I measured this out approximately an 1/8 inch longer than the wing length itself beyond the hook eye, and that'll give me ample room to tie that in, and when I fold it back to form the wing, it'll fold just about the way I want it. Now that I've tied in the wing, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the butts just a little bit, and we'll clip those nice and tight. And then I can wind over the butts and clean up that head a little bit. For the body, I'm going to use a micro straggle, and this is in a UV gold or sunburst, which is an excellent color selection for both golden stones and hoppers. So now I'm going to tie in my micro straggle, and I'll wind that from up near the head position all the way back to the tail set, and then return my thread all the way up to the back of that wing. And we'll follow up by winding the micro straggle all the way up the body to create this nice shimmer body that this material gives me. I like this a lot for a golden stone and or a hopper. It really gives some life and some action to the pattern as it glints off the shiny material in this UV straggle. Now I've wound this material all the way up to the butts of the deer hair, and that serves to help capture and hold them in place. So next I'm going to stroke the deer hair upward and begin trying to collect it into one nice package so I can fold it back to create the head. I wind my thread back just a couple of wraps, just about that 1/8 inch or a little bit more, back to form the head, and then I'll fold this material over and I'll capture it with about 3 or 4 or 5 wraps, tight wraps of my thread. And lastly, for the X on this pattern, or the legs on this pattern, I'm going to use rubber legs in a round medium brown. The last step in this fly is to attach the rubber legs. Now I've clipped off 2 lengths of my rubber legs, and I'm going to place it right on top of the head and take a couple of very soft wraps. And then I'll tug on each side and kind of position the legs to either side of this pattern, and then I can take a number more locking wraps to bind the material in place. And then I simply follow that up with a whip finish to finish this fly. From here, I'm going to apply a light coat of Sally Hansen's nail polish right over the thread wraps, both on top and below. And then I'll also coat the head itself to give that deer hair, that exposed deer hair bullet head, a little bit more strength and structure. Once I've done that, I'll clip the rubber legs to length. I like my back rubber legs about the length of the tail, and my front ones probably about 2/3 that length, plus or minus. It's all a matter of personal preference. So let me rotate this around in my vise a couple of times so you can see all sides of the Golden Stone Madamex pattern, or hopper, depending on what season you're in. So that has been your Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner for this month. I hope you'll give the Madamex a try. This is a pretty easy to tie fly, and one that's very, very effective for both golden stones and hoppers. So upcoming on the Metolius, the Deschutes, and a number other of our area waters that have golden stones, it's going to be a good fly this spring. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this channel and follow us at Sunriver Anglers on Facebook. Thanks for watching.